Yeah, what's going on, everybody? This is Sports Against the Grain. I've been out for the last couple weeks or so. I'm back. This video is going to be on Derrick Rose, Southside Chicago's finest. It was released earlier this morning that he will be having his number one jersey retired on January 24th, 2026, against the Los Angeles Lakers in Chicago. Rose gave Chicago hope that there'll be another opportunity for them to get another championship, better yet, start a dynasty once again in Chicago, just about 10, 11 years after Michael Jordan retired from the Chicago Bulls, winning sixth championship. He came fresh out of Memphis, only spent 1 year in college over there, and he was just a savage. Like, bruh, this nigga was probably, if not the most athletic point guard under 6'5" that we have ever witnessed. He was about 6 feet 3, 190 to like 195 pounds. We don't know his 40 time, but his vertical leap was well over 40 inches. This guy was an animal, like a human tank for somebody that's 6'3". I would say his 4'4" was possibly a high 4'3" or a low 4'4". He had a handle on the ball. He can cross anybody up. He was lightning quick. It was impossible to stay in front of him. He was the first overall pick in the 2008 NBA draft. This draft also included Russell Westbrook, Michael Beasley, and Kevin Love, to name a few players that were dominant during that era coming out of college, heading into the league. And he stayed in Chicago for 7 seasons, I want to say. He was there from the 2008 season, from the 2008-09 season up to 2015-16 season. He made an impact straight out the gates. He was the rookie of the year. He averaged almost 17 a game, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, nearly a steal a game in 37 minutes of play. He played 80 out of 81 games. And he led the Chicago Bulls to the playoffs in that 08-09 season. And we all remember it. I know I do. I actually have the Jordans that came out at the time. So in that first round, the Chicago Bulls competed against the defending champion Boston Celtics, led by Paul Pierce, along with Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen. This series was really gruesome. It went down to 6 games. In his first playoff game, he put up 36 and 11 dimes, shooting over 6% from the field. You got to also think Rajon Rondo was on his team. They basically have 4 All-Stars at the time, 4 future Hall of Famers on his team. The Bulls were the underdog. They were only the 7th seed at 41-41. So they lost that series in 6 games, and immediately people knew that Chicago has a new star. And then in 2009, 2010 season, sophomore season, he led the Chicago Bulls to the playoffs once again with a 41-41 record. So in his first 2 seasons, he was 500, but this year he was an 8th seed. And the following year, he lost to LeBron James in the Cleveland Cavaliers. I believe that team had Shaquille O'Neal, Antoine Jameson on that team. Yeah, that was 2010. So it was proven that this team was obviously not a super team. He had Ben Gordon there the first couple years. I remember Luol Deng was a nice 3 and D, somewhat ISO small forward. They had Carlos Boozer and Joakim Noah and Taj Gibson. I remember they had Kurt Heinrich also. I believe he was also in that draft with Derrick Rose. So they had like a solid core of players to surround him, mainly a defensive minded team. There was no explosive offensive threat really after Ben Gordon left, except for Derrick Rose, and then Luol Deng was a nice two. But anyways, in 2010, 2011, he led the the Bulls to the Eastern Conference Finals. They were first in the East with a 62-20 record. And as we all know, they lost to LeBron James, D Wade, Bosh, and the Miami Heat in six. This was a legendary series, though. It really was because they had beat the Indiana Pacers in the first round that year, and then the Atlanta Hawks in the second round. It was just too much for Derrick Rose. We all knew it. He was carrying that team by himself. If he didn't have the games that he had, he was averaging like around 24, 25 a game. They probably got swept or lost in five. And that moment, we realized that the Miami Heat were going to be the king of the East. The Heat were in second place that year, despite having that super team. So the last 2 years he spent in Chicago as the Derrick Rose that we know as an athletic animal, he was leading them as a number one seed. So in the 2011-2012 season, this is when he tore his ACL in the first round of playoffs against the Philadelphia 76ers. And it was sad. He was jumping to the rim. He blew by somebody and he did like a bunny hop and planted his knee wrong. And as we all know, for the youngins that don't know, he tore his ACL in that first playoff game. What was so upsetting is that the game was already over. They were up over 10 or 15 points. And it was about a minute and a half left in the game. And that was one of the worst sports injuries in the history of sports. Because ever since that moment, the Bulls, their hope of rekindling the flame of the 90s run was over. They got eliminated in six to the 76ers. Rose had missed that entire 2012 2013 season with the ACL. He came back, he played another 4 seasons with them, and he had a really good run in 2015 with the Bulls. He had led them to the postseason once again. Their record that year was 45-37. They're in fifth place, and they lost to the second round. And that was against LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers again back in 2015. So he lost LeBron twice in the playoffs. And they had beat the Bucks the first round. So pretty much after that season, the Bulls didn't have a that good of a season. They didn't make the playoffs. They finished the 2015-16 season at 42-40, and that's when they cut the rope off the cliff and let Derrick Rose go. They traded into the New York Knicks, and he retired last season or before last season. He retired right before the 2023-24 season with the Memphis Grizzlies, the same city that he went to college in, down the street from Memphis University. What I remember most about D Rose was his heart, his dedication, his tenacity. He had a "I'll never quit" mentality. He never made excuses. He was quiet. He was very, very humble. He wasn't the type to really talk trash. Let his game do the talking. And if you witnessed it for yourself, I had to say Derrick Rose was the best point guard, or arguably a top 2 or 3 point guard in the first 4 years of his career, from 2008 up to 2012, to where he tore his ACL. There is not a man alive that can guard him at any position. Like Chris Paul was up there as a top point guard, Darren Williams. Steph Curry wasn't even Steph Curry yet. Russell Westbrook was doing his thing with the Thunder. Westbrook and John Wall are probably the only two athletes that could touch this guy's athleticism. They all come to the league about a few years apart because I mentioned earlier Westbrook got drafted in '09 with him, and Wall came in 2011. And as you may know, yesterday John Wall announced his official retirement. I'm gonna do a video on him. But those are the top three athletes in the millennial generation of NBA players that I've seen at the point guard position. He played lockdown defense, whether it was man D, whether if he was getting steals, he'll get a block. He was dunking on centers. Go on YouTube and look up when he dunked on Joel Anthony. One of the filthiest dunks I've ever seen, man. in the Eastern Conference Finals that I mentioned earlier. He dunked on him. We literally could have seen an all time great. He would have made the top 75. I believe the Bulls would have made a few finals appearances. He would have eventually won a championship because the Miami Heat were in their prime when they're the number one seed in the 2011 2012 playoffs. And Rose is only 22 and he won the MVP. So think about Rose's knees going out, Bosh getting sick, LeBron running around like the groupie that he is and goes to Cleveland. He still has a team to build on. And don't let them get a trade and get a small forward like a prime Carmelo Anthony or upcoming Kevin Durant on the Thunder. There was just so much talent back then that Derrick Rose did not play with. And it's a shame because after Chicago let him go, he never really had a chance to fulfill his legacy as becoming a player that could help out a championship team. In 2017-18, they had him on a super team with the Cavs that got blown up in half a season. It featured him, Isaiah Thomas, a broke down D Wade, J.R. Smith, LeBron, of course, Kevin Love, and it didn't work. Eagles got involved and they split up the team for the All-Star break. And that's when he ended up going to the T-Wolves, and then he bounced around a few more times to the Pistons, went back to New York for 3 years, and he was done with Memphis. So shout out to Derrick Rose. He's my favorite point guard of all time. He about 3 weeks older than me. His birthday's in early October. Born in '88, straight out of Southside Chicago. And this is one of the realest players to ever do it. A three-time All-Star, 2009 Rookie of the Year, 2012 League MVP, and I believe he's a first ballot Hall of Famer just simply because those first 4 years in Chicago were amazing. He didn't break no crazy records except for the fact that he's the youngest MVP of all time. That alone should get him in first ballot, and his impact he had for the city of Chicago. Shout out to the Windy City and the fans out there in the Midwest. Derrick Rose will have his jersey hung up in January 2026. Until next time, this your boy. I'm out.